Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Rotten Reviews. We certainly have a rotten one on this episode. We are going to give off some more rottenness from director M. Night Shyamalan with his 2013 movie After Earth. It is certainly rotten. It has an 11% on the tomato meter, 36% on the audience score. In my opinion, it could be deserving of like an 8% on the audience score, but certainly rotten all the way through. In this case, the critics were right. Um, if I go down to the critics, and normally I don't do this, but I'm going to make a special case for this movie. Critics' reviews for After Earth. As we can see, there isn't one that's not rotten. Usually, even on another bad movie, you will see at least one thrown in there that's not rotten. In this case, no. Every one of them are rotten. Um, I normally say that critics' reviews are certainly not to be believed. In this case, I'd say believe them. I saw this movie while, believe it or not, I was on an airplane, and it was a long flight, more than 16 hours in duration. I watched several movies. This one I watched, and I was basically a captive audience because I had seen all the other movies that I wanted to see. This was the last one. I had heard it was bad, but I reluctantly let it play. What else did I have to do? My laptop didn't have a charging station in the seat I was in, so I couldn't boot that up. My battery was low, so I was stuck watching this on the back of, the seat in front of me. I'll never forget the experience because talk about being sore in the butt. I was sore in the butt, plus, kind of not feeling too well from being canned up inside an airplane, listening to people cough at the same time. So, yeah, this was a really bad experience. But even if I had been in a theater that served me drinks and had catered food, this would have been a disgustingly rotten movie. Moving right into the rotten reviews. First off, I'm going to give the amount of stars I think it should have. I think it should have half a star. Um, I'm not one of those people that normally says I would give this 0 if I could. A movie was made, an actual movie was made, and money was spent, and actors were paid, etc. So I'm going to give it half a star for employing people. But otherwise, yeah, it would have to be a big 0 artistically. Um, Nothing about it makes any sense. It takes place in the future in which the main character, he's, well, see, I don't know who the main character is. I guess the main character could be a kid. The kid is stranded on Earth. It's a future Earth that humans left long ago, and the animals have taken over. Not only have the animals and nature reclaimed the Earth, but the animals are actually hostile and want to wipe out any humans that show up again. Don't ask me why or how this logic works. Who knows? That's the backstory. This is Will Smith's son, and apparently this was a vehicle in which Will Smith just wanted to make his son into an action hero to give him a head start in Hollywood. Needless to say, it failed. Will Smith put a lot of his own money into it, like millions and millions of dollars of his own money, and apparently he had money to burn because it all burned up. But then again, it employed people, so it wasn't a total loss. So from my half a star, let's move into some recent reviews from October of 2019. We have a 4.5 star review. What do you people want in a movie? This was a great movie. Will and Jaden did great acting. People are too critical nowadays. I can't take this review seriously. I think this is like a die-hard Will Smith fan. He probably has Will Smith posters on his walls and posters of his kids and of his wife. Hey, everybody's got a hobby, but now I can't take your review seriously. 5 stars. I loved the progression of the son. He thought he was ready, found out he wasn't. He then learned he was more than ready and more than capable. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a low score. It was a 2013 movie with low ratings, and it is still being rented in 2019 and re-rented. If you look at the movies that came out the same time, the hype for those shows drew ticket buyers, yes, but most are not being rented or downloaded or borrowed today. I wonder why. Well, I can tell you why. The reason that somebody might want to rent this is because people are desperately wanting to see why this is so panned, why it's so critically bombed, why it's so vacant of any redeemable value, why somebody like me would want to slam it so hard, why, they want to see just how low M. Night Shyamalan sunk in his career. Could he actually sink lower than he did on The Last Airbender? Now, again, on The Last Airbender, I don't know because it's not my genre. Even if it were a good movie, I had no interest in The Last Airbender. It's not my thing, so that's why I kind of leave it alone. But everybody out there wants to argue it's M. Night's worst movie. But then again, this movie came out, and so I'm going to peg this one as M. Night's worst movie. I say this is lower than The Happening because this doesn't even get you to laugh. This is lower than Lady in the Water. This is lower than anything that he's done that I've heard of. Again, I'm not going to say Last Airbender because, it's like I'm trying to nitpick a cartoon. I'm not going to do that. But anyway, this reviewer is trying to say that people are, it's just like the numbers say it's being rented. Well, if that's true, hey, I kind of want to watch a train wreck too. If somebody's, driving on the freeway, you'll notice they'll slow down to rubberneck at that, that horrific pileup on the other side of the freeway. That's just human nature. I wouldn't say the horrific pileup is an Academy Award situation, though. It's just human nature. 4 stars. I so disagree with the low ratings. The film has a very good theme. The music accompanies the story well. Yes, the acting is a bit dramatic, but it fits the story, dramatizing a difficult experience of loss of a loved one by violent circumstances. It's sci-fi and does it well. Has those moments of creeps where you want to hide your face, and the deep struggle of a father and son relationship, especially in the military with a parent gone a lot. I like watching this film at least once a year. I don't know how old this reviewer is. Is he like perpetually 6? Because maybe a 6-year-old would find that in this. I just don't know. But a 6-year-old wouldn't have this vocabulary. So, it's a mystery to me where this review comes from. In the case of this movie, the father-son relationship, in real life, their father-son. In the movie, their father-son. The son has to go off on an adventure on Earth, braving these hostile creatures to save his dad. It's contrived and pointless, but see, that's not the real reason I almost couldn't sit through this. The real reason I couldn't sit through this is because it's so boring and the sci-fi sets are so stupid and illogical and cheap looking. And, I know that millions of dollars were sunk into this, but I don't know where the money went. It certainly didn't go into costuming. It didn't go into props. It didn't go into, the inside of a sci-fi ship or the design of that because it's so laughably stupid. Really a big design fail, an aesthetic fail before you even get into just the boringness of the story or the nonsense of it. Let's continue. 5 stars. I'm seeing this in 2019, way late. Mostly due to the bad reviews it got. Again, it's attracting people just solely on its bad reputation. I can't believe a movie that centers around 2 characters got such bad reviews by some simply because one character spends a lot of time in a chair. Really, it's not like he's sitting there doing absolutely nothing. The movie is not amazing, but it was a very good movie with suspense, creative, futuristic ideas, and believable, scared shitless, but trying to live up to father-teenager acting. I recommend it if you like sci-fi. No, this doesn't even pass the test on, a B movie for the Sci-Fi Channel. It fails even that. Yeah, Will Smith for, being such an action star, for having the name recognition to draw people into the theater. He spends the entire movie just sitting in a chair, wounded inside a badly designed spaceship, a wreck of one. That's his whole role in this, to talk on the radio to his son. It's a complete waste. He just wanted to be in this. He just wanted to make this movie. He thought making this movie would make his son the new big thing. He's living in his bubble, if he thought that. 2 stars. After Earth looks so before Earth to me. Yeah, it's really bad. The logic fails alone. I mean, imagine that, our civilization has achieved space flight to other star systems, Star Trek style, so to speak. we abandon Earth for whatever reason. Maybe we make it into a nature preserve. In the movie, they don't say that. They kind of say we left Earth because Earth became hostile to us, as though the animals themselves and nature just had it out for us. It doesn't make any sense. It's almost as bad as the logic in M. Night's The Happening. It's the same director. So it's just kind of hokey and unexplained and ridiculous, the logic behind it, before we get into the bad effects and the wasted Will Smith and the stupid and contrived plot, if you can call it a plot. 3.5 stars. After Earth may have some hammy acting, but overall it's an entertaining, suspenseful sci-fi flick. It's not Interstellar, but it's not Battlefield Earth either. No, you're right. It's not Interstellar because Interstellar at least had technicalities of the science that were accurate. It was boring, but it tried to do science in an accurate way. And it's certainly not Battlefield Earth, because Battlefield Earth had action. It was trying to be an action movie, and it was laughably stupid, and you could laugh at it, so there was value there. Again, like this movie, people gravitate towards it because it's so bad. People want to review it because it's so bad. But in the case of After Earth, it's just boring on top of it, so there's not even that much to make fun of. It's not as fun to, bag on it. 2 stars. Shamailized acting, awkward pacing, ridiculous script, and nepotism hurts this film so much. Actually, this film concept is about father and son lost on wild lands when they are on a hiking, while both of them trying to increase their broken family bond. But it's sad that the original idea shattered with mainstream space drama theme. Yeah, it's trying to do like a father-son where the father's like an absentee father, and the father and son have to go on this mission, and they end up wrecked, and the son has to go, transmit the distress signal to save the dad that's crippled and stuck in the ship. It's completely contrived, stupid, and boring, and it fails at every level. I guess a lot of the money went into CGI for the animals and stuff. But it's a waste. 1.5 star. Jaden Smith needs some acting lessons from his dad, because this is awful. The CGI animals make it seem less dangerous when they're near. The script is weak. The dialogue is not believable. Yeah, the CGI animals, you can tell a lot of money went into them, but they don't look right. They look too much cartoony. And again, even though Jaden Smith's character is supposed to be in true danger out in this hostile world, it just comes across as though nothing's going to touch him. He's protected. He's got plot armor. And that's why it's so contrived and stupid, because you already know he can't die no matter what. He's going to somehow get there to activate the beacon, because this is a straight shot, point A to B, with no twist. We've seen it a billion times. That's why it's such a fail. 0.5 star. This was not entertaining at all. By far the most boring movie I have ever watched in years. Just plain horrible. It was a waste of time and money. Please do not watch this catastrophe. Well, yeah, I was kind of warned myself, but again, I was a captive audience. I was stuck on a long plane flight, and, a captive audience. Now, if I had been in a movie theater, if somebody had bought me the ticket, because I knew this was going to be bad, I had seen the bad press ahead of time, but if somebody had bought me the ticket and convinced me to sit down in the theater next to them, like maybe a hot girl at the time or something, I would have probably wanted to just walk out and do something else, because, hey, somebody else paid, and like, why am I wasting my time? It was that bad. 3.5 stars. This film is uncommonly thoughtful. I think the reason it has been received so unfavorably is because it is almost unfit for general audience as such. The filmmaker displays several characteristic moments of the pure originality and inexplicably unique variety of suspense we know him for, though perhaps not as overtly unpredictable or powerfully shocking as some of his other cinematic arrangements. Wow, this is getting a little over the top. They're using a lot of big words, but like they don't know what they're really saying. They're trying to say that M. Night is just like the genius that he was telling us he was in Lady in the Water, but I disagree, and I don't understand why you're trying to blow smoke up his butt like this unless you're trying to like join his creative team. Good luck with that. 5 stars. Glad I am not the only one who thinks this movie is fantastic. I'm going to take that as sarcasm. 1 star, not English. 2.5 stars. I enjoyed this movie. It's not as good as it could have been, but it has some very interesting concepts and awesome effects. I think it was hampered by the plot progression and the directing. Will Smith and his son Jaden Smith are both great actors, but their performance is stale, their characters underdeveloped. I think that M. Night Shyamalan's writing and directing is more to blame. Long story short, I wouldn't call it a good movie, but it's still entertaining. Turn it on if you have a couple hours to kill. No, no, no. Turn this on. Don't even. No, there's. No. Please don't hurt yourself like this. 1 star. I don't know what made them make this movie. They must have thought they were making the next 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is a boring movie with no characters or events. At least they could have given me some good action scenes, but no, Will Smith was wasted sitting in a chair. Again, yeah, he sat in a chair, but that was the least of the movie's problems. Just when you see the set design, you know, the sci-fi interior set designs of this futuristic world, it's so bad and stupid and illogical that just the set design alone told me I shouldn't be watching it. That's how bad it was. And that's before it got to the stupid plot. 1.5 stars. A cool premise that could have been more compelling if executed well is unfortunately stifled under poor acting, plot holes, and an overall dull and boring tone. At least its presentation of a far future overgrown Earth is somewhat accurate. No, it failed on that too. All the millions of dollars that went into CGI and whatnot, but really all they showed was wilderness. They didn't attempt to show what, you know, American cities would look like or London would look like overgrown after 1,000 years. They could have, it would have been cool, but they didn't even do that. They wasted it on cartoony looking animals and just the jungle, basically. 5 stars. Actually, I haven't read the reviews. I just saw the movie. It's a great movie for Saturday afternoon. It has a fabulous message about fear not being real. I guess if you take it as a Saturday morning cartoon, that's the way that reviewer is coming across to me. 4 stars. Even though this movie is full of plot holes and could have used a scientist advising them on how evolution works, I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I don't think a scientist would get near this because, you know, once they saw the set design alone of the ships, the technology, they probably should have hit the exit door. 1 star. God, how do you have a plot so potentially exciting and fascinating as this and make it so bland, forgettable, and scientifically dumb? What exciting plot and fascinating plot. It was just the straight up dumbest, most boring plot. You go from point A to B. There's nothing in between. I don't get where they're seeing this fascinating plot. 5 stars. I don't understand why this movie received such low ratings. Probably my favorite Will Smith movie. The young Smith's acting is questionable, but he has potential. I can watch After Earth any given night. Then you're just a fanboy with posters of both of them on the walls because in the real world, this Will Smith, wow. Even Will Smith in that horrible movie called The Wild Wild West is better than this by a lot. 1 star. 5 minutes into it, pretty crappy. Watch it for a laugh. Agreed. Will Smith's kid always looks like he's going to cry or pee his pants. The acting is so wooden. Funny, the take a knee thing. Maybe Copernic got it from watching this movie. Glad I got it from the library for free. The dialogue is so bad. Who wrote this crap? Enough said. The end credits list story by Will Smith. I have to watch it again. It's so bad that it's funny. Oh, so I learned something new. Will Smith actually wrote the story too. Okay. 1 star. It could have been something, but it came out as dreadful. The plot could have worked, but the execution was botched from the start, filled with ideas that don't make any sense. Will Smith is an explosive actor whose character is deflated to being as interesting as watching paint dry. While Jaden Smith gives a Razzie-worthy performance, bad and cringe-worthy, the story, pacing, and writing are bland at best and atrocious at its worst. The effects were just generic, but it wasn't enough to distract us. Well, yeah, I don't even give it 1 star. star. I agree, but I say half a star. 3 stars, maybe I'm just odd, but I did not think this movie was all that bad, or you were asleep. 2 stars, Jaden Smith could do better, but the story, however, out there was okay. Obviously, Jaden Smith couldn't do better. He had to get in his dad's film. If Jaden Smith could do better, I have yet to see the evidence of it. 5 stars. Come on. This has got to be one of the worst misrated films out here. I just can't believe the very low tomato rating it has. It's very good as a sci-fi film. It's excellent as an action and adventure flick. And since I saw it with my 11-year-old, I love it as a father and son flick out there. I would rate this movie in the upper 90s out of 100. I'm wondering if Will Smith, not only taking such active roles in this film, I wonder if he is to this day perhaps paying some team of people from maybe a Chinese sweatshop to put favorable reviews up for this movie. That's a possibility, I guess. Half a star. The absolute worst M. Night movie ever, even worse than The Last Airbender. Concept itself is interesting and good, execution completely shit. Nothing in the film made sense, and acting from both Smiths were bland and crap, unlike The Pursuit for Happiness. I don't think The Pursuit of Happiness is particularly good either, but it's a lot better than this. Completely different genre, but it's at least got something to say. This has nothing to say. Half a star, possibly one of the worst movies I have ever seen, and I've seen tons of movies. 5 stars, this movie was a total cliffhanger, and so nice to see Will and Jaden together. Okay, you've got posters on your walls, I get it. No, there was no cliffhanger. The character, by necessity, had to have plot armor. You knew he wouldn't get hurt. You knew he wouldn't die. That's the whole, you get that from the first 10 minutes of this movie, so I'm sorry. Half a star. The movie have just no fucking sense. Humans are being chased by aliens, monsters designed by another race. These monsters are blind, but they can see, feeling the fear of their prey. Will Smith gets famous by killing these monsters because he's trained himself to not have fear, so he can get near them and stab them with a blade. In a fantasy medieval theme, this could work, but they have spaceships, advanced technology. They can just shot them on the face from a distance. Okay, I just forgot about that major part of the plot. It's not just that Earth has been overgrown and become hostile to humans. The wildlife wants to kill humans, but there is actually an alien subplot in which there are aliens spread throughout, I don't know, the cosmos that are the enemies of humans, and they stalk humans only by sensing their fear. Otherwise, humans are invisible to them. That's part of the movie. Again, I completely forgot about it because it's just like done as a subplot. It's not the main point of the movie. Although that's the big bad that the kid has to fight at the end. Completely contrived, completely boring. We already know, like I said, he's got plot armor. Jaden Smith will not get hurt or killed in this. So again, it's pointless anyway, but I forgot to bring it up. Half a star. Okay, that's French. I'm going to continue on. Half a star. M. Night Shyamalan went from a promising director to another massive disappointment. Like I said before in other rants on M. Night of mine, I believe he was just a one-hit wonder. The Sixth Sense was never, it was an accident that it was edited to be the hit that it turned out to be. I didn't even think it was all that exciting. But anyway, my thinking is that The Sixth Sense was a one-hit wonder. M. Night's a one-hit wonder. Everything else is him trying to prove he's not a one-hit wonder. He just can't bring himself to accept it. That's why he extended his middle finger to the powers that be in Hollywood with The Lady in the Water. He just can't accept that he's not all that. So we're just going to keep seeing him, M. Night, convincing people to back his crappy movies until someday in the future he'll show us all that he's right and we're all crazy. But I already know how the story's going to end. It's going to be very disappointing for M. Night. 1 star. I went into the theater one rainy day after finishing work early with no prior knowledge about the movie. What ensued was the most boring, predictable, and nonsensical movie experience of my life. The movie would have gotten more stars if it branded itself as a comedy. the weird and inconsistent accents, the terrible acting by Jaden Smith, the robotic direction of Will Smith's character, their stupid names, and the vast number of plot holes leave much to be desired, to say the least. Yeah, I agree. Will Smith wrote this. He created stupid names for everything. It's really off-putting. Um, Again, I don't think it would have worked as a comedy. This is not like The Happening where you can laugh out loud. This movie doesn't have anything funny in it. Even if a fan were to re-edit this as a comedy, it couldn't be done. It's just, it doesn't have enough there to work as a comedy either, so it's a complete fail. 2.5 stars. After Earth is a sci-fi movie about a teenager and his father that had a forced landing on planet Earth, which has evolved to kill humans and every trace of human race. So Katai would have to start an adventure journey guided by his father if they want to return home safe. Now, it's not a very original story, do you think? In my opinion, what I really liked was the message. The action scenes and special effects were not that special, but the message was astonishing. No, nothing astonishing. You're way easily impressed. You might have one or two posters of Will Smith in your bedroom. Just one or two. I'm not saying you're a total fanboy, but you got one or two out there. Um, Half a star. When Jaden Smith talks, I literally have a full body cringe. This movie is absolute shit. They shouldn't have made it so bland. It needs suspension and ambition. All in all, this movie is utter garbage except for the music. The music is quite nice. I agree, half a star. I don't recall any music. You could be right on the music. I'm not into cinematic scores. It has to really be fantastic for me to notice it at all. 4 stars. This is a great movie that I watch many times. A special calming movie that is great to fall asleep with at night. Quiet and low-key, but vivid and lush. I find the acting all acceptable, and Will Smith is solid. His son is interesting to watch act, and if anything, he was simply over-directed because his dad spent many days of shooting, directing him from the sidelines. But I like the effect of his acting style in this movie. He seems vulnerable and like he wants to be grown up before his time, like most teens. You know, that reviewer kind of brings up something funny as an aside. I wonder if Will Smith was actually, punishing his son to, perform in a certain way. I wonder if, like, from Jaden Smith's point of view, we might look back on this. He might have like a future book, or he might write a memoir 20 or 30 years from now after Will Smith is just a memory, telling us all that this was the worst time of his life and that he was abused, and maybe his dad was like forcing him to do everything in the film, and he'll tell us some horror story, and this whole thing will become a horror story told from Jaden Smith's point of view. It could happen. It's a possibility. You know how it is when you see those parents that demand that their kids grow up to be famous baseball stars or whatever, and the kid's heart really isn't in it, but the kid's parents are forcing them to do it or else. You know what I mean? And they're scarred for life. So we'll see what happens. 1 star. This film was far worse than the fair chance I gave it. Will Smith, as a previous fan of your comedic acting, please heed the following advice that others likely support. Send Jaden to university or trade school. Let him figure out what he's able to contribute to the world. Just because you have a son doesn't mean he should be an actor, especially via nepotism. There are many noble professions. Actors simply portray the real players in life as a form of entertainment. So here's somebody kind of taking the tact I was just alluding to, that maybe Jaden needs to be taken away from Will Smith and like made normal again, and he can have a viable profession. Maybe he can become a famous scientist and develop a new technology that will change the world. But as an actor, Will Smith needs to let him go and do his own thing. Could be. 4.5 stars. I strongly suggest to everyone who are yet to see this movie to view the story as an internal journey through a dream world. If you can understand how the young protagonist is in fact fighting with his inner demons, then this movie is going to be a memorable experience. If, however, you watch the show as you would a regular sci-fi, then you set yourself up for disappointment. I think most of all, this misunderstanding is the explanation for the low ratings the movie received. Okay, maybe Will Smith Smith is writing some of these. I don't know. 4.5 stars. Okay, again. 4 stars. After watching it a second time, trying to see the worst in it, I came away with the same feeling. The first of its kind, a great movie, and I would have paid to produce the sequel. Um, as with any parent and father, we want the best for our children and are willing to push them to the point of perfection. Again, did Will Smith write some of these reviews? Because it's like they're trying to make the point I was bringing up earlier. 1.5 stars. After Earth was doomed to failure simply because they had to cast Jaden Smith in order to get Will Smith to sign on as co-star and producer of the film. What? You've got that turned around. This was Will Smith forcing this movie to be created for the purpose of putting Jaden Smith into it. I think you have that messed around. This kid is a charisma vacuum who manages to suck every ounce of charm from a character that should be an audience favorite. We need to be totally on board with Katai in order for the story to function at all. Of course, even if we did love the star of the film, it's still not the best story. The concept of everything evolving to kill humans. Okay, they're saying basically Will Smith's son has no charisma. I'm not sure. I haven't seen him in enough of anything to know, but it could be. 5 stars. I just watched this movie and loved it. Okay, you've got like 4 posters of Will Smith on your bedroom walls. Okay. 1.5 stars. M. Night Shyamalan trying to soar with this sci-fi horror, but he falls hard. From cringeworthy acting by Jaden Smith to plot holes and boring sequences, After Earth marks a blemish not only for Shyamalan, but for Will Smith as well. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. A lot of people don't even realize M. Night's attached to this. They just consider this an embarrassing thing of Will Smith's. And it is largely. 4.5 stars. Great film. Despite all the bad reviews, I really enjoyed it. I thought young Jaden Smith played his part exceptionally well. I wish I had seen it in the cinema. Wow, you're a total fanboy. Your whole room is plastered with posters of the Smith family. I'm sure of that. 3.5 stars. The philosophy of Epictetus, the sci-fi action movie. Nothing new or special really as sci-fi goes, but enjoyable enough for what it is if you like the genre well enough, and nowhere near the train wreck the reviews would have you believe. Seriously, why all the rabid hate for Shyamalan? Because they've seen him fail and fail and fail and continue to get money from somewhere to fail again, and somehow people are, buying the tickets to see it. I mean, it's a fail and it's a monetary fail, but yet people keep shoveling money into this fail machine. That's what rubs people the wrong way. It's like when something fails that many times, you just want to see it go away. If this were your employee, from any point of view, from any profession, if you had an employee that failed this many times, would you keep investing money in them? Would you keep listening to them? No, you would have shit-canned them a long time ago. That's what rubs people weird about him. 5 stars. I really, really liked this movie. The 2 actors have such great chemistry and do such an amazing job. I loved it. Do not underestimate this movie's quality. No, sorry. You're living in Will Smith's head. 1 star. One of the worst movies I can remember, and definitely the worst sci-fi movie I saw. Well, there is always Battlefield Earth to save the day. Yeah, that's more enjoyable because you can find humor in that. 0.5 star. This is pretty boring with bad writing. 0.5 star. Ever watch something that makes you want to pluck out your eyes? That is the feeling I got while watching this movie. Terrible story. Worst hour and a half of my life that I've ever spent. 0.5 star. After Earth could have worked as an experimental, otherworldly adventure, if not for its complete lack of confidence, weak dialogue, bland presentation, and an over-reliance on its 2 leads of varying acting abilities to carry all of the above. I still say you're being too kind, but I agree with 0.5 star. Let's go back here, take a look here. We have 11% 36. I think this deserves like a 6% audience score to me. And that's what I'm going to leave as my final verdict. And I will see everybody again on another episode of Rotten Reviews.